Lodi Memorial started at the true grassroots, and people did go door to door and ask for money. The leaders of the hospital in those early years totally got the community involved. Everybody had a stake in it, and you knew if you got sick, it was your hospital.
Friends, it is a real pleasure to be here this evening to see the first official turning of the earth here that will start the building of this hospital.
Robert Mullen, my dad, helped out with the community in their effort to collect money for the hospital. He also then helped set up the foundation for the hospital. When they did the opening ceremonies for the hospital, my dad was the MC for that. Typical dad, he has a couple of notes in his hands and he's out talking for hours.
As this building grows into reality, bless every leader, every director, and every worker, that this hospital in all its future shall be a place where new life and healing shall be administered equally to all.
And the hospital was built totally with local money, and that feeling has just stayed with the community, it appears. I mean, I've seen it all my life. There's just a willingness to be part of the hospital.
The Lodi community is a family. So when you have a project that involves the whole community, then everybody is going to get behind it. And I think that's what happened when they started this hospital, and that's why so many people support the hospital. It's just that family community, and we are so fortunate to have such a fine facility in our community.
I came here with my husband in 1952. The hospital had been built, but we needed equipment for the hospital. And at that time, the ladies in Lodi formed themselves into hospital auxiliaries. And we named ourselves after grapes. And we competed against each other to see who could raise the most money for the equipment for the hospital. There was so much enthusiasm for the hospital in those days, it was just the thing to do. Everybody was gung-ho. We have a hospital.
Jeanette Munsell was one of the first nurses hired after the hospital opened.
I can remember the first day I walked in the hospital and they hired me, and I was young, anyway, and I was the youngest nurse in the hospital. It was really kind of scary. I mean, you're a little nervous,
Joyce Harmon was another nurse from those early years of Lodi Memorial.
As nurses, we walk into a lot of situations, funny, sad. You get the whole gamut of life's reactions, You could walk in and somebody is either having a lot of pain and you know what you can do for it. Well, that was very meaningful to a nurse, to be able to offer what she'd been trained to do and also offer the assistance that was expected of a nurse, And you got close to your patients because you knew them so much better personally. And it's just like having good friends.
I worked a lot of departments, and when we were night supervisor, we were at night. We had no doctor in the house. When that back door opened, the ambulance wasn't even an ambulance. It was the funeral directors that brought in the patients, let me tell you. So you opened the door, you never knew what was there. Then you had to assess everything and then call the doctor because you were at night. And it scares me to think the responsibility now, and I was so young. It just scares me even thinking about it, but someone was watching over us all the time that we did the right thing.
In those days, nurses wore the cap. It was a badge of honor for them.
It just signified that I was there to help, that I loved my job. I get emotional even thinking about it. And I was there for people. And it made me feel good that I graduated and I could do what I wanted to do.
When the traditional nurse's cap began being phased out in the 80s, Joyce formed the Cappies Club in honor of all that cap stood for. Over the years, the Cappies saw Lodi Memorial through many changes, and when the latest edition was completed, the Cappies planted a tall pine tree at the hospital entrance. Visitors will forever be welcomed with a little shade and a nice reminder of the women in white.
I've been in the hospital, part of the hospital staff for over 40 years. When I first came here, our ICU was a converted room that had like 3 or 4 beds in it. And so when they did the expansion and they built the west wing and they expanded up to ICU, that was really big time. That was really made us a real hospital. The pleasures that I get from taking care of people and helping people with their lives and being responsible for that decision making is so important to me. And so it's always been such a wonderful privilege to be able to have that responsibility. People thank me all the time, and I thank them for trusting me to care for them.
The quality of care, the family atmosphere, and the continual growth towards state-of-the-art facilities seem to keep doctors, nurses, and staff committed to Lodi Memorial throughout their lives, like Dawn Addington.
So in 1990, became a nurse, worked in the emergency room, and then in 1993, I was pregnant with triplets, and I actually had 4th on surprise on delivery with Dr. Gill here. Had some maternity leave, and then I came back to the emergency room. And then when the kids got to be like 5, they were gonna be going to school, and who's gonna pick 4 kids up? So that's when I went to nights. And so I did nights for about 9 years, ER and night shift supervisor. And when they were about 14, I went to utilization management.
Today, she works alongside one of her children.
One of the quadruplets started about 1.5 years ago here in security. And it's funny because then people will say, oh, what's happening with the babies? People that I haven't seen for a while. And I'll say, oh, they're fine. Well, one of them works here. And then they'll just for sure, they don't ever think that they're this old.
David Dollinger was one of the first babies ever born here. His life has come full circle back to Lodi Memorial.
So my mother had the whole upper floor to herself. She said, yeah, you're one of the originals.
David worked here for years as a physical therapist. A stroke brought him back as a patient.
I don't think anybody wants to be a patient, but I was glad to see a lot of familiar and happy faces, and the people here are just great. My care's been just excellent. I've even got cards, they put these little things on your trays that said Isaiah 31, little Bible quotes and stuff, just to pick your spirits up and cheer you up. I thought, how thoughtful, really nice.
Physical therapy is just one of many hospital outreach programs, like the Adult Daycare Center, which provides activities for elderly parents and relief for their adult children.
Every day there was a royal greeting and hugs and kisses, and she was important. And so for us, it was a relief that I could still be who I am during part of the day, and she could be on her own still, which was really important for her independence as well. It's truly a gift that you've given to our community.
Through the years, the hospital needs continued to grow, so plans began for the South Tower.
It was such a long process. I think it actually took us 12 years total from the time we made the decision we were going to do an expansion until we actually opened up. So when it finally came to fruition, I think there were a couple of high points. One was when the steel went up. They said, oh, you know what, this is really happening. Right? And then, probably 1.5 years later when we actually opened up, the momentum and I think the excitement started to build as we got closer and closer and closer.
In 2010, the South Tower officially opened.
It's like 2 different worlds. It's almost like another life. But most of it goes back to the staff. Their attitudes toward taking care of patients and the ability to be able to do it in a fairly modern facility with some high-end technology just makes your job so much easier. We had a brand new emergency room. It was double the capacity of what we had, and we never expected that, people were going to use it as much as they did.
Victoria Ruiz, whose little sister has developmental issues, was so thankful those emergency room services were there when her sister needed them.
She called me saying she wanted to kill herself and that she tried. Basically what happened was the police ended up taking her here to the hospital. And at that point, Shannon, I found out she was the nurse, and excuse me if I cry, but she was so caring. I sat with her at the nurse station and I literally told her everything. And She was so willing to do whatever she had to do to make sure that I spoke to the doctor. She explained to me everything, step by step. Mental health's gonna come out, Dr. She's gonna come in, exactly what was gonna happen. I felt so safe, so secure about knowing that my sister was safe, and that was all that mattered to me.
The emergency room, staff, and services have been a blessing for countless families.
When my daughter, she fell out of a shopping cart, and when she hit her head, she had a hematoma, and we rushed her to the hospital. They saw that she was a kid, and so immediately they sat her down, they calmed her down, they put a wristband on her, and they called it a bracelet, which made her think it was more of a princess approach than it was some medical thing. One of the nurses came out with a pillow pet, and as soon as she was pulling it out of the bag, my daughter's eyes caught it, and her eyes just lit up, and she said, "What's that?" And she was very excited. So when we drive by the hospital, and she always remembers this is where she got her little stuffed animal, and she's connected to it.
And it's that caring touch that Lodi Memorial is known for, from the earliest days to the latest deliveries.
The experience I had here delivering my son with the team from last night, I don't think it would have been possible. They were just so awesome. They were there for me the whole time, and they made the whole thing very smooth.
Even when deliveries don't go as planned and baby has to be separated from mom, it's the Lodi Memorial team that eases the discomfort.
My heart was broken because I had made it so long with this pregnancy, and then to have her sort of ripped away, I guess, that was hard, but the staff here was amazing. They were very comforting. I remember they brought in actually a picture. They gave me a picture of her, so that was nice. They would come in and they would actually talk about her, because she wasn't with me in bedside, and that was sad. So they would come in and ask, "How's baby? Did you call her? How is she doing? How is her blood level?" So they took interest in her, and that meant a lot to us. She's perfectly healthy, fun, outgoing, sweet baby girl.
My nurses care. They are passionate about what they do, and that's our culture in this department. I mean, we are always striving for the highest level of care. We push ourselves, and my staff will now come to me and say, "Okay, what are we going to do next?"
The next step for Lodi Memorial was making sure the hospital would be stronger going into the future. Adventist Health appeared to be the ideal fit.
We met with the board of directors of Adventist, and there was an affinity there. It was a good feeling. It was just something special, and the hospital hasn't missed a step. It would be a fine health facility for the city of Lodi for a long time, and that was the whole goal for this transition.
And so major state-of-the-art advances continue.
We started a robotic surgery program. It was the first one in the county, a very successful program, much better care. You see people coming in and out for surgeries that used to be in the hospital for 5 to 7 days. We're going home the next day and recovering a lot quicker.
From the high-tech to the natural surroundings of the Healing Garden, Adventist Health Lodi Memorial physically takes care of the diverse needs of our patients. But it's the personal touch that so many truly appreciate, like the Stanleys who brought their son Joe here.
They took Joe on almost as a brother or son. I mean, they felt like it was family to them, even to the point where we had some just talk in terms of one of the nurses, how she loved Joe and always wanted to be his nurse when she was on duty. They seemed to genuinely love to come into his room and watch over him and take care of him.
I don't know if I could tell them thank you enough, but they care about what they do. And when people say, "Oh, Lodi's the best," there are nurses here who are truly the best, and they actually really care. And I can't explain how much it meant to me to know that my sister was safe. And they didn't just do "Oh, shoo her off." No, they took the time to do what they were supposed to do. And beyond that.
And that's what we here at Adventist Health Lodi Memorial are all about. Going above and beyond with exceptional health care for you, your family, this community, and our future.